The GOP is rife with hypocrisy, but one of the more stunning examples is their so-called pro-life stance, while women and children are literally dying of COVID in red states. That's because the anti-abortion movement was never about life, but yet another rallying cry churned up by the fake outrage machine to win elections. Joining me now is Frank Schaeffer, director and author of several books, including Why I Am an Atheist Who Believes in God. Frank, it's always great to talk with you. You know, you were around at the beginning of the creation of this what's now called the pro-life movement. But I mean, it really wasn't about abortion. Initially, can you just walk us through the far right, the Christian right, didn't care about abortion. They cared about desegregated schools, about their segregated academies not being able to get federal funding. And then they shifted. How did the shift happen from worrying about not getting segregated academies federal funding to abortion?
Well, sadly, it happened in large measure because of the work that my father and I and Dr. Schaeffer, who became Surgeon General for Ronald Reagan, did in bringing a film series that I wrote and directed based on a book that Schaeffer and Dad wrote called Whatever Happened to the Human Race to millions and millions of evangelicals. Now, what will surprise you and many viewers is to understand that when we took that series out, many evangelicals were pro-choice. In fact, Reverend Billy Graham, the great evangelist, Dr. Criswell, the president of the Southern Baptist Convention, these men refused to participate in our seminars when they had been avid followers of my dad and our work before that. And I was Dad's nepotistic sidekick. Now, introducing me tonight, you mentioned a book, Why I'm an Atheist Who Believes in God. But after that came out, I've spent the last 6 years writing an apology to women and families in America that we damaged, called Fall in Love, Have Children, Stay Put, Save the Planet, Be Happy. And the reason I have done that is that my family unleashed the rabid religious right on women when in fact evangelicals were evenly divided and even a little bit pro-choice. So one of the lies the religious right tells and one of the lies the Republican Party tells is somehow that part of evangelical theology, the theology of people like Reverend Billy Graham, Dr. Criswell, the editors of Christianity Today magazine, who also in those days were pro-choice, has always been like the Catholic Church on this issue. It has not been. Yeah. So the first lie is evangelicals, as I point out in my book, Fall in Love, Have Children, was that evangelicals somehow were pro-life. They weren't. They were like other Americans, many shocked by women having to go to back alley abortions. A lot of people like Dr. Graham, for instance, who told me, I was in the meeting with him at the Mayo Clinic with my dad, and we met in Billy's room where he was undergoing a checkup. And Billy said, I can't preach to women and tell them what to do about this. Men don't get pregnant. How dare I do that? Yeah. So he was reasonable on it. So the first lie, Joy, is that we come from a place where we have acted as if this is part of Christian theology. It is not. And the second thing is that my family, sadly, as I talk about in the book, went out of its way not to stop abortion, but to put women back in their place. This was a misogynistic movement. I was part of it. And that's why I've spent the last 6 years writing an apology and what I hope is the most pro-family, pro-child, pro-woman book out there. And I'll tell you something, you cannot be pro-family unless you are pro-choice. Yeah. Because if women are treated like nothing more than incubating vessels, second-class citizens, and this horrible burden that nature and evolution or God or whoever the creator was puts on women, if this is not balanced by the right to choose, we cannot have an equal society. Women cannot have careers. Women cannot have lives. And so I am so sorry for the part I played. I am so sorry on behalf of my father for the part we played. We were a misogyny team. We were not pro-life.
Let me read a little bit. This is from your book, and it says, my version of pro-life was horribly unfair. I soon found myself shilling for the anti-abortion movement that the pro-life juggernaut would become as it linked arms with far-right misogynists. But I want to also talk to you about the sort of bigger picture here, because this movement now is not just against abortion. They also are coming for birth control eventually, for RU46 and other ways to prevent pregnancy. But they also don't say anything about child poverty, the lack of health care, the lack of education. Mississippi is 50th in almost every category for caring for children. And that's the state that's deciding that they want to end abortion. But why isn't pro-life also about keeping people alive once they're born?
Because pro-life has always been about containing women. Look, I was brought up in a household, Reformed Calvinist, fundamentalist Christian household, that believed and taught me to really be a jerk by divine right. You're in charge of women, and they're supposed to obey you. There are still women and men in this country that believe that. And one of the things that I talk about in Fall in Love, Have Children is that this view of women almost smashed my marriage. My wife, Jeannie, and I have been married 52 years now. I got her pregnant when we were 17 and 18. We were a teenage pregnancy, as I described. And the fact is that my learning curve is the learning curve that the evangelicals have refused to take. And they are not pro-life. They are anti-woman.
Indeed, indeed. And I wish we had more time. Frank Schaeffer, thank you so much, and thank you for writing that apology. We appreciate you.